Welcome back, everyone. It is episode 4 of the Wisdom of Walt, the podcast. Kristin, how are you?
I am so good, Jeff. It's good to be here, and thank you too for joining us today. We've got lots to talk about this week. Starting off with just the big news, I think that everyone's buzzing about, Jeff.
I know, I know this isn't going to be news for folks, but change is a coming. There is
hmm
new leadership on the way. What do you think?
Well, I think a lot of us feel a little nervous. Change is not an easy thing for many, many people, and this is
I
a
hate
big
change.
change. I know. And it affects so many of us, but more importantly, it affects Disneyland, Disney as a company. And that's one thing that we all kind of hold dear to our hearts. We don't want it to change too much. So, yeah.
We don't, and I'll share a story. When I was 5 years old, my mother changed the curtains in our kitchen, and God
Ooh.
rest her soul, I've never forgiven her.
Mm,
So I understand struggling with change, but Disney needed some change. I love Bob Iger,
yeah.
just like I
Agreed.
loved Michael Eisner and Frank Wells, and I loved Walt Disney and Roy Disney. The only constant in the
Right.
universe is change. And
That's
so
right.
we've got Josh Damaro coming in, we've got Dana Walden coming in,
hmm
and I am hopefully optimistic. Now, on paper, and this is what I wrote about this week, on paper, I think this works. And it
Yeah.
works for several reasons. First of all, Josh is a really nice guy. I've never heard anybody say a bad word about him, starting with cast members. And that counts, right? The
Huge.
number one reason why people keep going back to the parks over and over again is because of the interaction with cast members, right? And so if the head of the company has that connection with the cast members who make that guest experience so amazing, that's really important and really significant. I love the
hmm
parks. You love the parks. We all
Absolutely.
love the parks. And so I love the idea that Josh is a parks guy, but there's an elephant in the room and we got to talk about it. The
We
park
do.
experience today isn't the park experience from, I don't wanna say 5 years ago because we don't wanna go back
Mm,
5 years. Let's go back 6 or 7 years ago,
yeah.
and those changes came under the leadership of guess who? Josh
Hmm.
D'Amaro. So, I love Josh's personality, I love that Josh is a parks guy, but let's be honest,
Right.
you gotta have a little bit of concern when you see the changes that nobody likes that have happened over the last few years under the leadership of Mr. Demaro. So here's what I would say. I hope Josh comes in with a vision. Walt
Right.
had a vision. Eisner had a vision. Iger had a vision. I don't know what Josh's Demaro's vision is. What I do know is if you're going to be a leader, not a manager, but a leader and a successful one, you got to have a vision, not for where you are and how you want to manage that, but for where you want to be. I
Right.
hope and pray Josh D'Amaro takes us as fans, takes us as guests, takes Disney as a company to places we have never been before because that's leadership.
Absolutely. It's going into the unknown, right? But also, like you said, making sure that we're part of that journey with him. I think the fastest way to put some of our stresses and our worries and anxieties at ease is to let us in on the plan. While
Mm.
we like to be surprised, while we like to have that grand unveiling of a new concept or a new land or a new attraction, this is big. And because, like you touched on as well, there's been a lot of decisions that were made under his leadership that we're battling, right? High ticket prices, the experiences, some of the guest services that have been peeled back, the early entry, a lot of those things that we grew to love and cherish are now gone. Let us in on what you're going to do better. What lessons did you learn? Like Star Wars Land, right? They went back after they tried something new. They tried to make everybody happy, made a lot of people upset, but they had the wherewithal to go back and say, let's take another look at this. What can we do better because we're listening? We don't expect perfection, but we expect humanity and humility enough to be able to go back to the drawing board and say, you know what? That didn't land right. We tried it. It didn't work. Here's what we're going to do differently because we're listening. And then take us with you on that journey through leadership. But have the courage to do it and not
And
just
I have
do
a
it
question
for
about
today,
that.
but tomorrow. Yeah.
So they're righting the ship with Galaxy's Edge in California. What's the plan for Walt Disney World and Hollywood Studios because it's still a
Mm.
problem there. And
Yeah.
nobody's asked that question and nobody's said anything about it. So I think you make a really good point. Disney as a company is a storytelling company. Disney's great at inviting us into these amazing experiences,
Mhm.
include us in the story. That's what I hear
Right.
you saying. And I'm
Absolutely,
going to throw,
because we're part of that story, right? We are
we
an
are.
essential part of that story, just like his relationship that Josh has with cast members. We could argue that the story starts there. The story starts well before we show up at the gates, right? That's the heart of the company. So the fact that he already has that really good working relationship and trust and camaraderie, that's great, but we need to make sure we can channel that and funnel it down and transfer that to the rest of us.
Yeah.
So I'm
And if
hopeful
you
for
think
that.
about it, every great guest, customer, fan experience you've ever had is a byproduct of being invited into the experience and invited
Right.
into the story. And I'll throw
Absolutely.
another example out there. I don't know if Josh Tomorrow is listening yet, but who knows?
Yeah.
What's going on with Tomorrowland? It's great that
Mm.
they're fixing Galaxy's Edge, but Tomorrowland is needed to be fixed for like more than 2 decades. And if
Oh,
you're
Lord.
not going to fix it, tell us why,
Right.
right?
There's so much untapped potential and square footage and real estate there. Every time I walk through it, I feel like I've got to get through something to get to something that I actually care about way in the back. But then there's like a lot of these oddballs, like kind of the weird uncle that shows up to the party that never leaves. It's like, why are you here still?
Or the
And
dead
so,
uncle that
right.
the remains haven't been carried out, people mover track.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Lots
so
of
yeah,
room
so
for advancements and change.
yeah, so again, yeah, Bob Iger was a great guy.
Mhm.
Michael Eisner doesn't get nearly enough credit.
Nope.
Disney
Where's his
Decade with
Main
him and
Street
Frank
window?
Wells were amazing. He needs to get a window on Main Street. I concur.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, and leaders have a vision, and I can't wait to see what Josh Tomorrow and Dana Walden's vision are. And my hope for the Dana Walden creative end of all of
Mhm.
this is that the studio and the streaming end of the Disney company gets fixed and gets righted so that the company's not so cash dependent on the success of the parks. Because
Right.
that's where I think we as park fans have really been suffering. That's where the company's making its profit right now, and
Mhm.
they keep tapping the cash cow to prop
Yes.
up ESPN and Disney Plus and
Yep.
failures at the box office, and so if we can get one righted to help keep from having to feed the other, then everything's gonna be much, much better.
Agreed. And I know that there's been some buzz out there about, oh, what does Dana know about this? She should stay in her own lane. Well, that's exactly it. Go back to Walt, go back to Roy. I would not want to give my checkbook and financial control to Walt Disney, the story guy, right?
No. No,
The
no, 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 no,
creative.
no.
No, let them stay in their own lane. Let them be masters of their own lane, but let them come together and cross over and overlap to be able to make the entire thing as an, entire entity be successful. And I'm hopeful.
Yeah,
What are our other options here?
fun fact, when Walt died on December 15th, 1966,
Mhm.
Roy had to get out of his lane and take over both ends of the company to
Right.
include finishing what Walt
Yep.
had started on a little project in Central Florida that would come to be known as Walt Disney World.
Right.
Before Walt died, my understanding is Roy had been to Imagineering in Glendale all of one time. He stayed in his
Wow.
lane, right? And so, yeah, Josh is a parks guy. Dana is a creative TV studio person,
Right.
and hopefully they both have amazing visions for where each ends of the company are going to go. And we
Yep.
fans are just going to love it and go along for the ride. I'm here for it.
Yep. I'm here for it too. Adjust those ears and hang on tight because we can only guess where we're headed.
There you
So
go.
yeah,
Now,
great job with that.
for your article this week, talk about
Mhm.
leadership and vision. You wrote about Groundhog Day and the
I sure did.
importance not of weather, right?
Mhm.
But of having the courage to make sure that you lead your own life and don't keep repeating the same day over and over and over again. We don't want Josh Tomorrow to be Bob Iger any more than we wanted Bob Iger to be Michael Eisner or Michael
Right.
Eisner to be, I don't even remember who the people were before Eisner, but
Right.
they certainly weren't Walt Disney, although the only thing they did was ask the question, what would Walt
Where is
Disney
Walt Disney? Or yeah,
do?
what would Walt do? Yeah.
So how do we avoid Groundhog Day? How do we lead our own lives? What was your takeaway from the park, and how we can apply that and make our own lives better?
I think rule number 1 is you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Why do we stay in unhealthy relationships? Why do we stay at the job that we know that is draining us? Why do we continue to live out certain behaviors every day? Well, it's because it's all we know. Or it's what we've allowed ourselves to be the only thing that we know. Change is difficult for a lot of
Mhm.
people. Unknown, uncertainty, we don't like it. We avoid it at all costs, even at, the detriment to ourselves and our own success. I think the number one thing that you can remember is if you start with being okay with being uncomfortable, knowing that it's not about the present moment, but it's about having the courage to go into the unknown and branch off to do something a little different, a little bit outside your comfort zone. Just that one small change can be enough to set into motion a whole new tomorrow for
And
yourself.
in between where you are today and where you want to be tomorrow,
Mhm.
there's that challenge of doing what Walt did in constructing Disneyland, and that's building a berm
Yep,
between, right, who you
absolutely.
are today and who you say you want to be tomorrow. Talk about why the berm's so important to you.
Gosh, the berm has been a game changer. So, of course, fans of Disneyland, of course, know this. What's surrounding Disneyland, what's protecting the magic is, in fact, a berm. The berm has two roles. Not only is it meant to keep the magic and the story within its confines, but it's also intended to protect and keep distractions out. Nowadays, we have so many more distractions than I think Walt even could ever imagine possible. Social media, 24/7 newsreels, different political viewpoints bombarding us every moment of every day. Even the naysayers in our lives, our own self doubt, people that might be questioning our abilities or our future successes. Everywhere we look, there's noise, there's pollution. And that's the same kind of noise and pollution that Walt knew immediately when he started construction in 1954. First things first, we got to put up a berm. We've got to make sure that our guest experience is not tainted by the outside world. And friend, if you aren't careful and not intentional about putting up a berm in your life, you're going to allow that outside influence to creep its way in and start robbing you of the magic that can be not only your daily life, but the life that you want for yourself in the future. So, real quick, practical applications of that is put the damn phone down. I am so guilty. My husband is guilty. The first thing
We're
in the
all
morning,
guilty.
right? The first thing we do is not rolling over with our morning breath saying, good morning, let me give you a kiss. It's like, let me grab my cell phone and check how many emails I have or who commented on my post. So rule number 1 for me that I've implemented the past few months is I'm not looking at my cell phone for the first hour of my day. Here's the part you're not going to like. Well, in order for me not to be late for work every day or to not run behind in my daily chores, I've got to then get up a little bit earlier. So, getting up earlier, carving out that intentional time for just me without my cell phone, getting my headspace in the right tune for what that day's success is going to look like and really meditate on what should I be able to do today to get me to what I want to be able to do tomorrow, and that sets me up for my entire day.
Sounds
You
like
know,
you're
and
talking about vision. You have a vision for the day. You set
I
an
do.
intention.
Yep, intentional vision. It's goal setting, it's working backwards, it's thinking in advance. What do I want for tomorrow? And then how do I achieve that and work backwards from there? But none of that is possible unless we set up that safety perimeter, that guardrail, that berm in our life. So whether it's social media, cell phone use, your friendship circles, who you surround yourself with. If you want to know what you're going to look like in a few years, take a look at the people you hang out with, lean on their successes. So yeah.
I can't imagine what it's like to be charged with running the world's largest entertainment company, which is what
Mm,
Josh Tomorrow just signed up for starting on March 18th.
right.
I guarantee you he has had to build a berm in order to get to where he is, right? And
Indeed.
so he's done it in his life just like Walt did it in the park. You're doing it in your life. I know I've certainly
Mhm.
done it in mine. Build that berm. Figure out what you want to do. Be intentional. Josh, have a vision for where you want to take the company.
Right.
We all need to have a vision. What do we want to accomplish today? What do we want to accomplish this week? What do we want to accomplish this year?
Mhm.
Where do we want to be a year from now? And you might not be the CEO of Disney, but you're darn sure the CEO of your own life.